Welcome to Forbes Newsroom. I'm Louisa Kroll, and with me today is Lizette Voitko. She is our expert on all things Kanye West, also known as Ye, and she's going to take us through her latest report on his stunning fall from the billionaire ranks. So Lizette, first off, before we get into the details, tell me a little bit about when you first put him in the ranks and what made up his fortune.
Yeah, so the thing you have to understand about Ye, because he's legally called Ye now, it's his legal name, he's really wanted to be on the billionaires list for a very long time. What I understand is that he had been campaigning for it before he finally made his appearance in, I think, spring of 2020. Mm-hmm. And that fortune really relied on his partnership with Adidas. The Yeezy sneakers that he sold through Adidas was the 75% bulk of his fortune. And
so how much was that partnership worth?
So when we first put him on the billionaires list in 2020, that partnership was valued at, I think, $1 billion. Mm-hmm. It might have been a little bit under because he also has like some real estate and some other assets, but it has grown since then over the past 2 years. When we updated his valuation earlier this year, his net worth was actually at $2 billion. So it's grown twice as much over the past 2 years. But unfortunately, now that Adidas has cut ties with him, that cut $1.5 billion out of his net worth, and so that means he's now worth around $400 million.
Okay, so take me through how you guys got, or how we get to the $1.5 billion.
Sure.
That sounds like a lot for a sneaker brand, being made by Adidas. So
absolutely. So the partnership that he had struck with Adidas was built on this agreement where he'd get royalty payments based on how many of the sneakers were sold. And in terms of how we then value, get from, okay, he gets his royalty to $1.5 billion, we attach a multiple to it based on how the revenue has done over the past year. Mm-hmm. So we calculate that number. We have a multiple that we get from, industry analysts and other experts. And therefore, you get your total number of valuation and then his piece of it, which is $1.5 billion.
And back when you guys were doing this, you kind of figured that he could have sold it. There was the ability to transfer it. Now, obviously, that's been blown up. But I had read in your story that he got something like $200 million in royalties last year. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah. Based on documents that he showed us that were financial documents, bank statements, that sort of thing, we were able to glean, yes, this was a $200 million payment that went to his pocket last year.
So the thing that's crazy to me is how he was pretty much baiting them before even the anti-Semitic remarks came out. But he basically was saying that Adidas and Gap, who cut him off earlier, had not been doing enough for him.
Yep.
And do you think that he just never thought that they would yank the contract from him? Did he think that he was too valuable? Any thoughts?
It's very difficult to get inside Kanye's mind, as I think we've all kind of witnessed over the past 5 to 10 years that he's been in the public spotlight. Based on comments he made on the Drink Champs podcast, which I believe recorded earlier this month, but those comments only hit the news last week, that he basically said, I can say anti-Semitic things and Adidas can't drop me. It was almost like a challenge. But as we know, Adidas, based on those comments, plus all of the mounting pressure from the top tiers of Hollywood, finally convinced them to cut ties yesterday morning. So he probably did think he was too valuable. But I think you and I know that you're only as valuable as, not only the money you can bring into a brand, but also, the reputation is super, super important. And that can't be discounted.
So take me through who else has cut ties with Ye.
So Gap was the first. We wrote this story mid-September in which, Gap had cut ties with Ye, and they were doing a Gap Yeezy partnership. And as we know, Gap is known for selling, American sportswear basics. And they did this collaboration that included like hoodies and jackets, and they were, very basic, solid colors. But as you and I both know from, I think it was late last year, there were reports that came out that Gap was frustrated at how slow the rollout was, and there was, speculation that, Ye was holding up the process. And when Gap finally cut ties last month, it didn't really affect his net worth all that much because we didn't even have a full year of revenues yet for the Gap Yeezy collection. So it was more of a symbolic, I believe, sort of separation as opposed to a financial one.
Mm-hmm.
But, based on videos that have surfaced of, Ye, lecturing to, groups of Gap executives, it also appears that there was some sort of, I guess the gentle way to call it would be a mismatch between how he was operating and how they were operating.
So tell me, were there really any other partners that cut ties that hit his bottom line or his net worth?
Not so much as Adidas. The Paris fashion house Balenciaga also cut ties with Ye. That was more recent in the past couple of weeks. That happened really right after he walked in their show at Paris Fashion Week. And that goes to show, how quickly things have soured. Essentially, he went to Paris, and ever since he's come back from Paris, things have really gone downhill from him. His talent agency, CAA, out in Los Angeles, they're one of the biggest and oldest agencies out there representing all types of artists and actors. They no longer represent him. They parted ways with him. Another production company called MRC shelved a completed documentary that they did with him because they don't want to be associated with him and the types of remarks he's been making over the past few weeks.
Okay, so you said he's still worth roughly $400 million. I mean, that obviously is still a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Take me through what that is.
Sure. So there's essentially three components left to that $400 million. One would be his music catalog. We've been told that he still, he owns his masters. He finished his recording contract with Def Jam, which is a Universal subsidiary. I've been told by a source close to Def Jam that he is a free agent, that, he can go and do what he wants recording-wise. So he owns his music catalog, which is around $130 million, we've estimated. That value could have gone down, obviously, because only his early music, I've been told, has a lot of value attached to it because those were, a lot of hits as opposed to the newer stuff. And obviously, again, because of his his behavior and his remarks over the past few weeks, that could also impact his music catalog's ability to be, sold, just like, Bruce Springsteen or Bob Dylan have been able to sell their work. The other two components of his fortune still left are, real estate, cash, like other types of related assets. And he does still have an estimated 5% stake in Skims, his ex-wife's really popular shapewear line. But I've been told by a source close to Skims that he's not been involved with that brand since its 2019 launch. So it's more of a passive sort of thing.
Yeah, I just really wonder if Kim has any legal, legal claims to be able to, take that back, or if she would buy him out. Kind of same on the music catalogs. I mean, it's interesting because another reporter at Forbes was covering, the resale value of the sneakers, and I kind of wonder, where does he go from here? Does he still have an audience, in the far right that has been, where he's been kind of leaning and trying to, create some buzz? Or is this really, are we going to just see him, continue to devolve? There have been reports about his heavy spending, how he hasn't really, he's been kind of floating around from hotel to hotel. So I do kind of wonder, is this the end, or is this beginning of the end, or can things get much worse for him? What do you think?
It's hard to predict the future, obviously, but it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. It doesn't feel good, reading these things and, thinking about where he could possibly go from here. I think it should be stated that in 2018, Ye did reveal that he had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And I know there's been a ton of conversation around, you can't separate what is going on with your mental health versus, what your actions are in public. And I think that that's a complicating factor in all of this. So based on the conversations I've been having, online and with sources, I think people want to at least see him, doing well. Maybe not, financially, maybe not as a celebrity, but, just being okay and healthy as a person at the end of the day. Because there's a human there under all of this, and that should probably be remembered, even though the other things he's done can't be excused.
And he is a father, and of course we all do hope that he gets some sort of help.
Yeah, I think it's just a really stunning downfall. He has made an indelible mark on the culture over the past 15 years or so. And I think the thing to remember at the end of the day, he did it to himself, which is really, really tough. It's not like a crime was committed. It's not like, he's not like a Bernie Madoff type, right? Like running off with people's money. He by not modulating or changing his behavior or being able to, retain public relations people who could help him through this. This was a really self-made disaster, a self-made downfall,
and just the way it was a self-made fortune as well. I mean, he obviously had climbed very high. He had done incredibly well, and he did have a following. And he, as you said, he has apparently burnt those bridges. And we'll see. America does love a great comeback story. So I guess anything is possible.
Anything's possible. There's potential that he could, start Yeezy up again by himself. That would be interesting to watch because that would involve.
And he owns that brand name, right?
He owns the Yeezy name. That's correct. So it'll be interesting to see if he can pull that off because he's obviously pulled off quite some other successes throughout his life.
Well, thank you so much, Lizette. It was a really interesting story, and it's a really sad story as well. But I unfortunately imagine we'll see more coverage from you on Ye and what happens to his business. And yeah, it'll be one we'll be watching. Thank you.